Hey Tanner,
Hey, how's it going, Jessica?
pretty good. How about you?
Good.
Your
Excited to
hair
be here.
doesn't look too out of control, so you've obviously had a haircut.
Yeah, my fiance decided to trim it herself with
Uh-oh.
the thing going on. So yeah, I think she did a pretty good job.
Yeah, looks good. I'm impressed. I haven't had a haircut in like close to a year at this point, so it's getting a little out of control. I don't trust my partner enough to cut my hair.
No,
I'm like too nervous.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, kick that. Oh, yeah. So I'm super excited to chat today. And obviously, you and I have chatted tons about this subject, but I thought it was something important to share with our followers and anybody who's currently planning a wedding and thinking about taking that amazing trip of a lifetime together to kick off their marriage. So I guess let's go ahead and get started and just have you share a little bit about yourself and how you got into travel hacking.
yeah. So my background is in personal finance, so I've been super interested in just like anything money related for as long as I can remember. Um, and it's the same goes for travel. Like growing up, my parents took us on some really awesome trips, and I like wanted that to be a part of my life going forward. So when I graduated college in 2014, I had a bunch of debt, like a lot of people, and I didn't want that to hold me back from taking these awesome trips. So I started doing some research to see like how I could do it because I knew people were doing it. I just didn't know how to do it myself. So I think it was a family vacation we took to California in 2014. And actually, my dad told me about the United credit card, and he said, if you open this card, spend $2,000 in 3 months, and get the bonus points, then you'll be able to pay for the round trip ticket basically with the points. And I didn't believe him at first, but I looked into it,
It sounds too
and
good to be true when you first start looking
yeah,
into it, right?
yeah, you're like, how can I just spend on my normal living expenses and then get a free flight? It just like doesn't make sense, but it was legit, and I ended up going on that family vacation for free. And since that time, for the past 6 years, I've travel hacked probably 20 plus times within the United States, and then just recently took our first international trip, which was amazing.
Yeah, I would love for you to share more about that. I know that you guys just got back from what, like a month-long trip
Yeah, so we spent 28 days in New Zealand in February, my fiance and I, and it was
before everything got crazy, right?
yeah, so like our flight back, like we were coming back right as everything was starting to get crazy. So our timing was super lucky.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we travel hacked our flights to New Zealand, which would have cost us probably $4,000 if we paid for it with cash. But we, over the last couple of years, just started accumulating points, and used the points for the two tickets. And then we had to pay like some taxes and fees, which I think came out to like maybe $100 or $200. But when you're talking about a $4,000 trip,
Right.
like, that's pretty negligible.
Yeah.
But the trip itself was amazing. I mean, we traveled to the North and the South Island and basically got to use all the money we saved from the flights to do some pretty incredible experiences and do some awesome hikes and go on some cruises and stay in some really cool Airbnbs. So it was like a trip of a lifetime, and it definitely would not have happened if we didn't use points to go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe we should start out by just describing like what exactly is travel hacking? How do you do it? Like, how does it work?
Yep. So travel hacking is the concept of using travel rewards that you accumulate through credit cards to pay for your flights. So, taking that a step further, like credit cards will offer sign up bonuses if you spend a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time. So, for example, that United card I talked about, it was you spend $2,000 in 3 months and you get 40,000 points. So, basically, you use your living expenses to pay for like the $2,000, and then you get points that you can put towards a flight.
Yeah.
Um, and it's pretty incredible. And And I think how that ties into your audience is like weddings can be expensive,
They
and
don't
you're
have to
paying
be, but they can be.
yeah, they don't have to be, but they can be. And like um when you have that large amount of expenses in a short amount of time, it is a really good opportunity to open these credit cards. And you can and then you can use the points to go on an amazing honeymoon that you thought you might not be able to afford beforehand.
Absolutely. I personally have used travel hacking for a lot of different things throughout my life. The most recent example would be my sister got married in January, and her wedding was out in California. And I, like you, learned about like the whole travel rewards thing. And so I pretty much, I am in a position now in my life where I'm completely debt free. So I don't have any recurring like debt payments that I have to worry about. And so I put all of my living expenses, everything that I possibly can, on a credit card. The only thing I haven't quite figured out is like rent at this point. So that includes like my groceries, my gas, like any sort of like entertainment or clothing, whatever it might be. And then of course, obviously like sticking to your personal monthly budget and not using the credit card to go crazy, but just using it to pay for the things you're going to pay for anyway. Like, why would you not take advantage of that and reap the rewards that are available to anybody?
Yeah.
Well, anybody who has decent enough credit to get approved for these cards. That's the thing that I think is where people need more like information about how to get that sort of stuff, which is something that you wrote about in the ebook, right?
Yeah, so credit scores and like understanding how your credit score is like formed is not like very well known knowledge to people. So we decided to cover that in the ebook a lot. It's a big myth that people think when you open a credit card and you close a credit card, or you have multiple credit cards, that your credit is just going to get destroyed. And that's just absolutely not true. It's a matter of using credit smart, like in a smart way. So if you
I like
open
to
a
say
credit
savvy, a savvy way.
or savvy way, yeah, I'll switch to savvy.
Yeah.
So if you're using credit cards in a savvy way, your credit score will actually probably go up when you're opening credit cards and paying them off on time every month. I think that was something you kind of just briefly touched on before this. Like if you're opening credit cards to travel hack and you're not going to stick to your monthly budget and you're just going to go crazy, then this is probably not something you want to do.
Right.
You just have to really know yourself and know that, like, okay, I'm using this credit card as a tool to help me take a free trip, and I'm not going to use it to, go spend on things that you don't necessarily need.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a good amount of like just restraint and responsibility. I know like that's not a sexy word or whatever, but we have to be like responsible and have a good handle on our monthly budget. And I mean, it's not something that you definitely couldn't do if you had some sort of debt, especially like student loan debt, where like your payments might be minimal or the interest rate is minimal. But I do think that it's important to be responsible where all of this is concerned.
Yeah. It's like, because when I started, I had college debt, but I also had like a budget for myself with my normal living expenses. So I was like, okay, if I just use the credit card for these expenses, pay it off every month, then I'm not going to be continuing going into debt. So like you said, it's just being responsible. And I think another thing to mention is like, if you have a set, like relating it to weddings specifically, if you're only going to spend $5,000 on your wedding, only spend $5,000 on your wedding, whether it's with cash or whether it's with a credit card. Don't let opening multiple credit cards to travel hack like get in the way of like you going over your budget on your wedding. That's just not something that you really want to do.
Absolutely. You're preaching to the choir over here. Yeah, I think it's amazing what can be possible though. And one of the things that like we've outlined in the ebook is like sample itineraries where you can really see, if you're working with a budget of $10,000 or $20,000 or 15 or whatever it might be, you can see how you can use that money by opening different cards and earning those sign up bonuses by putting your wedding expenses on those cards in combination with like your regular monthly living expenses. And then how you can translate those rewards to book your flights, your hotels, and then you'll have that extra money that you saved for not having to pay for your flights and hotels to do those things that are more like experiential together, like you guys did, like going on guided hikes or tours or cruises or parasailing or whatever it might be, because those experiences are really, I think, what brings couples really close together, just having those shared amazing memories and experiences that you can do on, that trip of a lifetime, your honeymoon.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you mentioned the sample itineraries. Like we have those in the ebook because it's like talking about this stuff to people, it still seems kind of like pie in the sky, like I'll never be able to do this type thing.
Right.
And to like really see the numbers and see like, oh, like if I open these two cards and get this many points, like we've outlined, like we've done the research on the hotels, the flights, like how many points it costs for each of these. And it's some pretty incredible trips you can take. I mean, we have trips, for Hawaii, Italy, Greece, like pretty much any popular honeymoon destination or just anywhere in the world you can get to by points. So that I'm really glad we have that in the book for people to see.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see what's possible. And that's something that I just want to share with more people, is that this isn't out of reach. This isn't pie in the sky. Even if you only want to, take out a rewards card for like an airline and get just your airline flights for free, that is still like a huge significant savings on your overall cost of your trip. Or if you wanted to just do a hotel based card instead, or going for one of the more premium credit cards that has more like variable options available.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just so many different ways to look at it and ways to utilize this sort of like rewards system to have just an amazing trip. And I know like you're recently engaged, right?
Yep, we got engaged in April.
Very exciting. And congratulations. I've already said it, but congrats again. I have a great book for you if you need some help with planning your wedding. But I'm curious to know, have you guys thought about your honeymoon and what you might want to potentially use travel hacking to kind of save up for and redeem?
Yeah, so we have a few ideas for our honeymoon. We don't really know which one we want to go for yet, but neither of us have been to Europe before, so we really are thinking about going to Spain or Italy for
Wow.
a period of time.
You just spent a month in New Zealand and you haven't even done Europe yet. You just like went huge.
Yeah, we just decided to go all the way across the world instead of just part way.
Yeah.
But we both love good food, and both Spain and Italy have really good food, and we're both outdoors people, so they're both beautiful countries. But we're starting now to like think about that, even though it's like we're not even really sure when we're going to get married right now. But
right. I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat at the moment.
Yeah. But the honeymoon, like as much as we're excited for the wedding, we're like super excited for the honeymoon. So we're starting to think about like what kind of points we need to accumulate now to start paying for those trips like 1 or 2 years down the line. Because like you do still need to do some planning. It's not like you can just think like, oh, my honeymoon's in a month and I'm going to be able to get all these points. Like it is something you have to kind of plan out for the future. So we're starting to think about that now. We should be able to do it, especially between the two of us. We can both open rewards credit cards, which just like amplifies where you can go and how much money you can save.
Absolutely. You get like double the rewards basically if you're both working together simultaneously towards these like point goals.
Yeah, and like you can both open the same card just under your own name. So if a sign-up bonus is 40,000 points and you both open the same card, then you have 80,000 points right there just between the two of you, which is enough. I mean, I think we had...
Yeah, what could 80,000 points get people for people who are watching?
Yep, so I think if I'm remembering correctly, 80,000 points was one round trip ticket to New Zealand. And that's like, so we're from Ohio, so we flew from Ohio to New Zealand, which is like almost as far across the world as you can get. So
Yeah.
think about if you're going somewhere much closer, like if you want to go to Ireland or you want to just do even a United States trip, you don't have to go international. Like 40,000 points could be two round trip tickets depending on the airline
Yeah,
you're using.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, so we're excited to start kind of thinking about that and start accumulating some points for
Yeah,
that
it's
trip.
amazing what it really like unlocks in terms of like the potential that you have to go farther or for to stay for longer even potentially. If you've only budgeted a certain amount, maybe you could extend your honeymoon by a few extra days by using travel hacking. So there's just so many possibilities, honestly, infinite possibilities. But I think the way that you broke it down in the ebook is just really, really clear and helpful and super organized. And it was so fun to like work on that project together. I think especially because like you said, it's so relevant to couples who are planning a wedding. They have this year-long period, or potentially more in some cases, that they're planning for. They're making all these big payments and deposits on top of like their everyday living expenses. And so being able to like, you know, spend the money that you're going to be spending anyway and then get something for it is just kind of a no-brainer if you're able to do it.
Yeah, and you were the perfect partner. You and your audience were like the perfect partner for this. Like you're all about helping couples. Like it's not about like being stingy or frugal or anything. It's all about being savvy. So whether you're on $1,000 budget or a $20,000 budget, you can use credit cards in a savvy way to like take this amazing trip. So it was really fun to like work together on that. And I think it fit perfectly with you and your audience and what you're trying to bring to the wedding industry, which I think is really incredible.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's so important to me, I think, to not only show couples what's possible, I think because there's all this sticker shock involved when planning a wedding, and you think like, oh, you see these numbers in the media of like your wedding has to cost this much money, or this is like the average wedding cost. But it's possible to do things for less. It's possible for it to still be beautiful and amazing and all those things you want it to be, no matter how much you have to spend. It's really about like prioritizing what's important to you. And I think a lot of the millennial generation, which includes me, even though I'm on like the older end of the millennial scale, to be honest, is, you know, experiences together. And so that includes travel, and having those experiences together as a couple is just so important, I think, when you're first starting your marriage. Making those memories and just like kicking things off, having that intentional time to like reflect on like the day you just had and the commitment you just made to each other, and then experience something new in another part of the country or even the world with travel, I think is just really cool.
Yeah, that I'm glad you touched on that because when we were in New Zealand, like obviously we weren't married yet, but we'd been together for close to 3 years at that point, and just the amount, like it was just us. It was just us two for 28 days, and like the amount of connection we felt with each other and like the memories we made and like we're looking back at the pictures like even today still and being like oh my gosh like that was so beautiful like do you remember this, do you remember that, like it just traveling just really brings you closer with your partner in my opinion, and I'm biased because we I love to travel, but I really think it is a way to like just get closer with your significant other.
I think
Learn
you
a lot.
learn a lot about each other during that process too. You kind of see how each other handles like sometimes stressful situations, but also just building memories that will last forever.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was like a pretty stark contrast going from like traveling together for a month and then coming back and being like basically quarantined for how long now?
Yeah, it's we're still the only ones that see each other most of the time, but it's a lot different than traveling for the most part. It's
But
yeah,
you
being confined.
proposed during quarantine and she said yes. So obviously it's all good.
Yeah, so we obviously didn't get on each other's nerves too much. So yeah, we had to bring some joy to the month of April after being locked in for a few months. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So I know I have a few questions here from people who have sent some questions in. Let me see. Um, we covered kind of already people who have like existing credit card debt. Like, do you have any suggestions for, like, I personally would say if you do have a little bit of credit card debt, maybe look at uh, like paying that off or putting it on a zero interest card perhaps before like trying to take on any other sort of like travel hacking situation. But what would you suggest in that scenario?
yeah, so if you have credit card debt, it would probably be best to just pay that off before you even think about like opening another credit card. Like the interest rates on credit cards are so insanely high. I mean, sometimes up to like 20% that it just doesn't make sense to even carry 10 or 15 or $20 of credit card debt because that just gets out of hand really quickly. So if you have existing debt, I mean, we're not talking about student loans or like car loans because those are a little more manageable. But if you have credit card debt, I would say pay that off first, get that under control, and then you can think about travel hacking from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and zero interest credit cards are a great option if you have the chance to transfer your balance. But don't let that keep you from paying it off just because you have it on a 0% credit card. Like it's still a debt, and you don't want that lingering
Yeah.
for.
I think in most cases, even if you have like a 0% card, you still have to be making some sort of monthly payment anyway. I
Yeah,
personally like grew up on Dave Ramsey, and I think my dad gave me like financial peace when I graduated high school. But yet I still did end up finding myself in a little bit of credit card debt by the time I graduated college. So I did the debt snowball thing until I was debt free. And then it was at that point that I felt like I had more options available to me. And I think the same thing kind of goes along for like people who are planning a wedding. Like if you and your partner, either of you have debt, or if you don't have a fully funded emergency fund, which like right now in the situation a lot of people are in, I know a lot of people have been furloughed or laid off, or maybe have had their hours reduced. You know, just making sure that you do whatever you can to have like an emergency fund in case of emergencies would definitely come before paying for a wedding and before like signing up for a credit card.
yeah, yeah. Having that money there in case of emergency is like such a peace of mind. Whether you're planning for a wedding or any stage of life, it's really nice to have that on hand in case anything bad goes wrong. I've experienced that over the past few months. Just having a little extra money is super helpful.
Yeah, for sure. It's so important to have a cushion in place because life happens. Crazy stuff happens. Pandemics happen, obviously. So having some sort of emergency cushion is so important, especially before you go about planning a wedding or anything else that's kind of like extra.
Yep.
It looks like we have a question here in the chat. Um, she says, I'm getting married in New York this year, and she's in Ireland. What's the best way to go about this? So I've heard that like I don't know, in the UK, they don't have like credit card rewards in the same way as we do here in the States. Is that right?
So I honestly am not. I don't want to speak to this like
As an
um,
authority.
yeah, as an authority figure because I don't totally know. Um, but if you're looking to get if you're in Ireland and looking to get married in New York, I would suggest just like looking to see if any banks offer any sort of like sign up bonuses or any of the credit card companies offer sign up bonuses for your specific situation. I like you said, it kind of varies by country, like what sort of sign up offers they have. And we specifically, I mean, our like my experience and your experience is living in the US.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to speak from another country, but basically I would say look like even if it's a local bank, they might have a credit card or like a bank account that you could open that's if you deposit $500, you get $200, and that could help pay for like a partial flight to New York for you and your significant other. Because I
Yeah.
imagine I imagine getting married in New York while living in Ireland probably has some additional expenses that living in one state and getting married in the same state wouldn't have.
Right, totally. Andrew, hey Andrew, by the way, in the comments, he said, look into hotel credit cards. Sheraton and other US based hotels offer them. And that's a really great suggestion. If you don't do like an airline specific card or a hotel specific card, you could utilize those. And I would assume they could do that from overseas. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think
Something worth
so.
looking into for sure.
Yeah.
That's how I got started. I think my first credit card was a Southwest card because I lived in Nashville and they flew everywhere that I wanted to go. And before I could really afford to go and stay in hotels and like do the travel the way that, people think about it now, like I was just going to visit family and friends. So I would use my Southwest credit card to redeem my points to get my flights. And then I just stay with family and friends. And that was how I got started with traveling, to be honest, because I was on a budget. This is what we call
Yeah.
budget savvy.
Yeah.
We all got to
Yeah,
start somewhere. All got to start somewhere.
exactly. And that's actually something that I've used travel hacking a lot for is like for like holiday travel. Like if you're living like far away from family or like your fiance's family or significant other's family, it's like you're going to be traveling every year for the holidays. Like
Yep.
having that stash of points is so nice just to like not have to worry about paying a couple $1,000s each year for flights just to see your family.
It's
It's
so
so
true,
nice.
especially with like holiday flights, the prices always go up crazy, crazy. So if you know you're going to go and you can book it in advance on points, you can save yourself a lot of money and hassle.
Yeah.
And it's good to do it in advance too, because it's one thing that I've learned in my experience, through travel hacking and earning these rewards is if you need like a last minute flight, you usually have to pay extra fees. So having some like foresight and making a plan a bit in advance is going to make sure that you get the most for those rewards that you're earning.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like a lot of the hotel websites and airline websites will have like calendars that you can use to see like, okay, if I book my flight on this day and I'm returning this day, how many points would that cost? And they lay it out really nicely for you, so you can like adjust your dates and see like which dates would be the most like from a points perspective be the best for you to travel. Like obviously not everyone can like take off take off for vacation like when you're getting the best points, but if you're trying to like be super savvy and like make your points go the furthest, like checking out those hotel and airline websites beforehand will definitely help your points go a long way.
Yeah, I'm all about like maximizing your efforts in every aspect of life, and that includes like your credit card reward points. I love any of the calendars that show you the price, like if you adjust your trip by like a day or not. I do that even with Google Flights. And you'll often see that like, and I know you've outlined some of this in the ebook as well. Like if you can shift your trip dates and travel from like a Tuesday to a Tuesday, like you're probably going to get a better price than going on like a Saturday.
Yep. And like with hotels, like if you're traveling, I guess probably with even flights too, if you're traveling during off season, like if you decide to take a honeymoon and you do it like in a month that's not as popular for the destination you're going to, like it'll still probably be an amazing trip, but the cost is going to be way down, which like points typically follow the cost in dollars. So like traveling in the off season will be another thing that can help your points go really far.
Yeah, so true, and such a great point. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of all the stuff that you covered in the ebook. I know we're getting like kind of close to the end of our time here, so I just wanted to share a little bit more. If you guys don't know about the ebook that Tanner and I co-created, it's called The Budget-Savvy Honeymoon. appropriately named, right? And you can find it at budget-savvyhoneymoon.com. It includes all sorts of great information, including the best cards to use, suggested timelines for, signing up for cards, how to get those sign up bonuses throughout your wedding planning process, what sort of expenses you can use your credit card for in most cases. Like Tanner was just talking about, how to maximize your points to get the best deal and get the most out of your points. And even tips for like boosting your credit score. I know personally, like my credit score, I mean, I don't want to share it. Is that like weird for me to share my credit score? But it's incredible. Like, I can't believe it. I'm so proud of myself. But I know that a lot of it has to do with the fact that I have several credit cards and I pay them off in full every month. And so I have a really great track record where that's concerned. So you don't have to worry about travel hacking having a negative effect on your credit score. And we really laid out everything, step-by-step instructions on how to do it, including like sample itineraries so you can see where you can go from. We have ones for, what did we say, Italy, Greece, Hawaii,
Florida.
Yeah, we did a domestic one for folks who want to stay within the States. So I think there's 8 total sample itineraries.
Yep. Yeah, I think we maybe did for Greece.
Oh yeah, we did 2 different ones for Greece, right? Yeah. So it's really incredible, super informative. You can find the ebook at budget-savvyhoneymoon.com. And it's super informative. And we also have a little Facebook group for that when you join the ebook. So if you want to ask us questions and get some like personalized feedback from Tanner and I, feel free to do that. And the ebook is $14.99, and it is seriously, like, if you follow the steps, like, you can do similar to like what Tanner did. What was the total value of your trip that you just took to New Zealand?
Yeah, so like, I have to say flights were $4,000, and we stayed a couple nights in a hotel that was probably at least another $500. So we saved $4,500 on that trip just through some smart credit cards.
Yeah. So like, just get an idea of what's possible. And I don't even think I finished the story I started earlier about my sister's wedding in January. I get so all over the place sometimes, but my sister got married in January in California, and I'm currently living in Florida, and I was able to book my flights, book a rental car, book my hotels, like all on points that I've earned throughout the year, just spending on my normal living expenses like groceries and gas and, my utility bills, my Netflix, like any sort of recurring subscription or anything like that in your life that is hooked to a credit card. Like, you can earn points on those things that you're spending money on anyway. And by doing that, I was able to get my entire trip out to California basically just for maybe like $100 total in fees that I ended up paying. And it was easily over, I think the hotel was worth like $350 a night, and we were there for 2 nights. So, I mean, like, that's crazy. So there's really so much that you can do with it once you learn the basics and learn the tactics and how you can really make it work for you. And I just think more people need to know about this because it's totally possible.
Yep. Yeah. The more people who know about this, the more people who are going to be able to take some pretty amazing honeymoons. And then just like, once you do it once, like, the process just gets easier and easier. And like, you could go down rabbit holes and, become like super travel hacking dude or whatever. But
you start to get really excited about it though, because once you do it once and see how really like easy it is, it becomes kind of a no-brainer, and you realize what's possible, and you just keep doing it again and again and again.
Yeah. Yep. It makes traveling really accessible. So yeah, the more people who do it, the better.
I totally agree. So I guess we're going to wrap up here. Unless anybody has any more questions, feel free to leave us some comments. But I hope you guys found this informative. And we also have decided that we're going to give away, for anybody watching, a free sample itinerary. So you can get a feel for kind of the content of the ebook and get an example of what you can do with your credit card reward points. So the itinerary we chose was for Maui, Hawaii, which is a dream destination for so many honeymooners. So you can actually get that free sample itinerary at thebudgetsavvybride.com/IG live. And I will include a link in my Instagram story when we jump off here. So if you want to check that and get the direct link to get that free sample itinerary, you should do that. Awesome. Well, this was super fun. I don't see any other questions. Just want to scroll back through just in case I missed anything, but had a lot of people jump in here today, so that's really cool. Well, and like I said, if you have any other questions, you can learn more at budget-savvyhoneymoon.com. And you can also, why don't you share, Tanner, how people can find you and learn more about what you do?
Yep. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is Tanner_underscore Krauth.
You're new to Instagram though, right?
I am new to Instagram. This is my first Instagram live experience.
Yay! You did great.
So, thank you. I'm getting the hang of the platform, so you can find me there. I started blogging a couple months ago.
I
on my
love
own.
your blog, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I post every day on it. It's tannerkrauth.com. It's mainly just like me sharing my thoughts on personal growth and something I've learned from the day or previous days. And it's been a really fun process just writing and sharing my thoughts. And I've gotten some pretty awesome feedback from some friends and other people that follow. So if you want to follow me there, you can check me out there as well.
He's got some great words of wisdom. Every time I read it, I actually subscribe so I get it via email every day. And I'm always like, that's a really thought-provoking little musing there. So I really enjoy it. You guys should definitely check it out. And yeah, so thank you again so much, Tanner, for doing this with me. And hopefully we'll get to do something again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And thanks everyone for joining. Glad you all joined today.
Awesome. All right, everybody, have a good rest of your day.